was a penalty against the Chicago Bears. It's a 52-yard
He's doing the right foot. Most little kids put him on the wrong feet.
and 18. They pick up 15 yards. They go for it on 4th down and pick it up. Then they kick the field goal and win the game.
No, I'm Oma. Can you say Oma? Here you go. Here you go. Thank you. Can you say Oma?
That's Eddie Drummond, deep to receive. He's at
You look tired. Somebody's ready for a nap. Oh, can you bring this back to Daddy? Can you bring this back to Daddy?
18-yard line, driven back to the 16. Gerard Cherry.
Where'd you go, Evie?
Right there when the ball came down. 6 minutes, 12 seconds.
Evie.
Do you want to get her in her seat ready?
Okay.
Can't do it then.
Oh, hi.
Mike.
This picture won't even show up.
I don't think so.
It's okay. I got it on video and I zoomed in on it.
Oh.
So I was outside and I zoomed in and I zoomed back out.
I'm 108 years old.
So we'll start with your.
1, 2, 3, 4, 9.
Everybody feels sorry for me because this is the only girl I ever had.
Oh, sexy Kolar. No, that's
Sexy Warren.
sexy
Warren.
Pardon me.
You know, we're gonna have that on videotape for 100 years. She'll be an old lady and she'll be showing a kid. You seem like great grandparents. Sexy Warren, he was called.
Well, maybe in his youth.
And he fooled his wife. She thought he was sweet.
Well, he was.
Sweet Warren.
Yeah.
So Warren, tell us about the
First start how you met.
yeah, how'd you
We'll
meet?
start from the beginning.
How do we meet?
Is it on?
It's been on the whole time.
Oh my goodness.
That's why I was saying that. She's gonna have all that stuff. I wasn't kidding.
We met because
Yeah, that's
my older brother was dating his older sister.
And that was
And Barb.
Barb
Barb.
and
Dave.
Dave.
Yeah, my brother Dave. And
Evie.
one night he took me up to Kolar's house. Only I didn't meet Dad, I met
Richard.
Richard. And I didn't go with him.
Evie.
So he had to bring me up another time. And I met Warren. Sweet Warren. That was it.
And how old were
no,
you?
No. My brother took me down to the corner drugstore where Warren was working.
Where he was a jerk, right?
Yes.
10 cents an hour.
10
cents an hour?
35 hours a
And
week.
I was wearing a black dress and a black hat because I thought after I graduated from high school that you had to wear black. And
So you were 18 then?
was I 18 yet?
About 17 and a half.
Oh man, Warren, gosh.
And I don't like Coke, but he offered me a Coke. And I thought,
You better
and
drink
he
it,
said,
huh?
now what did you say? You get it?
You wanted a cherry Coke.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, you're better off getting a bottle Coke because what comes out of the fountain is too good.
And it cost what, 10 cents?
Cost him a whole hour's worth of pay.
Yeah.
5
A
cents.
whole hour's worth of pay to
Yeah.
pay that for that Coke.
Yeah.
Man.
So I liked him. And then we started,
Was that in Minneapolis?
oh yes.
Where in Minneapolis?
I thought I had a day off from work and a day off from the university. I was going to the university. And I said, oh, I got a free night. Maybe I'll call Donna up. So I called her up and she said, oh, I got a bad cold. I said, well,
And I
it's par
said,
for the course. So I
no, I said, can I take a rain check? But you didn't know what that meant.
That's right.
And I was living with Ann then because she was real sick. And that's where you called.
That's right.
And that was lucky because I wasn't allowed to go out with boys. and I'd have to cry and cry.
You had graduated high school and you still weren't allowed to go out with boys? Well, how do they expect you to get married?
That's what I was just getting to. I was crying. I said, "What am I supposed to do? Grow up and marry my brother?"
Be an old maid.
No, marry my. Well, the kids. My kids' sisters always called me the married old maid, anyhow, because I was a prissy old.
So, did they
So then-
say what the name of the drugstore was where you
There's Boston's.
That was down on the corner of his.
35th and DuPont,
Yeah.
What?
in the basement.
Yeah.
In the basement?
It was a basement drugstore.
Oh, was it? Oh, yeah. You had to walk down outside stairs to get to it.
Wow.
And the,
But I thought he was about 30 something.
Turned out he was only a year older.
so
Be careful.
even back in those days, the girls were chasing us. 'Cause she called me up and says, "I'm ready for the rain check."
Well, because you didn't know what it is.
So you didn't see each other in high school?
Uh-uh.
Oh, they went to the same high school.
Went to the same high school.
On
Never
top of
saw
it.
each
Oh,
other.
But
really?
you're apart.
Just too big.
Well, yeah, you.
Too big.
Probably did, but I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Too big. How big was your high school? 300 kids?
Oh, no. Each graduating class would be about 600.
Oh, wow. So it was big like mine then.
Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But out of the 3 Kolars that married 3 Sewells, we're the only ones that stayed married.
Well, that's a good thing.
And how long of a courtship did you have?
Well, till I was 21. Now it's
Yeah, we waited.
We went
About
around
3 years,
2.5 years.
3.5 years.
Yeah.
Anything exciting happen in those days?
Lots of things.
No, I
Lots of
figured
things.
after I was 21, I knew my parents couldn't object to anything. So I told my mother I'm going to get married in 9 days, and she says, "Well, I wish you'd have given me more time." So we got
9?
married in 9 days.
Well, it was wartime.
Oh.
Pearl
Was it
Harbor
quick?
had already happened.
Oh, that's right.
Quick proposal?
Well, we just assumed we were going to get married. We'd go to Sears. That was a big deal. And he said, and buy pots and pans and silverware. And he says, I had so much money invested, I had to marry her.
Right.
I think we spent about $50 in all.
On-
Oh,
100.
and I just threw out the last pot that
You're
I still
kidding.
had. Yeah.
We didn't have much money, so we'd get on the streetcar on 24th and Hennepin, and we'd ride it all the way to the end of the line in St. Paul and back for 7.5 cents a piece.
That was a big
How do
deal.
you pay in half
One
cents?
Well, you buy
So
so
you
many
get 7
tokens.
for 35 cents.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's a good question, actually. I was thinking.
Yeah.
How do you
half.
pay 7.5 cents?
Yeah? Well, you buy,
Now they're regretting that they got rid of all the streetcars, the
Yeah.
streetcar lines.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah,
Now they're tearing the whole place up, putting it back in.
sure, sure. Oh, they had a lot more money.
one night we went downtown and we had the Orpheum Theater, we saw a movie, Wizard of Oz. Took her,
What was I wearing?
took her to Lee's Cafe, had steak dinner, and went over and went bowling. Each
All in
bowling-
one night?
Oh,
All in one night, and it cost me less than $5 the whole night.
Wow.
you put it on? What a girl.
Or something.
He says, I'm going to hop into this film.
Yeah, what a girl. Good for you.
Did you propose, or was it like a mutual?
Like she said, we just
Just set a
we
date?
just figured.
Was that
You're mine, and that's gonna be.
that was after Pearl Harbor though? You decided, or
Yeah.
'cause
Well,
did-
Oh, oh
Pearl
no.
Harbor was December 7th,
Seven.
and they got married January 30th.
Yeah.
So it was
and then how long after that did you ship off? How long after that did you ship off? To the Navy?
6
Oh, I-
months.
I left, I went to war August 18th.
So we had
Yeah, about 7 months. together.
oh, we had a fancy apartment. You couldn't get apartments or anything in those days. It was just
Evie.
It was just one room in an old house, and had to share the bathroom, and there was no kitchen sink or stove. Had a hot plate, and had to go to the bathroom to get the water.
what did you eat?
I had never cooked, and I had to learn how to.
How to make
And-
spam burgers.
Wieners and beans.
Just what
No,
Dad lived on in
one of-
college.
One of
Franks and
our
beans.
wedding presents was a twin waffle iron, so we ate a lot of waffles. And he loved baked beans, and I did it real fancy. I stood wieners in the baked beans.
Stand them up.
You stand them up? You would cut them up?
Yeah.
Real fancy.
Where was the apartment?
2515 Lindale.
Oh,
Oh,
gosh.
Yeah.
nice area.
Oh, lovely. Old house. Oh, yes, it was.
$35 a month rent.
Yeah.
That's not really that cheap back then, though.
You what?
That
20
was
feet away, streetcars went by.
That was pretty expensive,
Well,
wasn't
how
it?
much did you say it was?
$35 a month.
35.
Yeah, that was a lot of money. And of course, I had no way to wash clothes. And my dad would come over and get me, take me home to wash
Oh
clothes.
wow!
And he was working at the phone company down manholes and up poles. And he wore long underwear. And I had never seen any in my life. And I didn't want my mother to see it, so I'd hang them on the inside line. I thought she would be horrified.
No, we can't do it.
Oh, the things you do when you're young.
We're talking to Grandma.
So when Grandpa went off to war, you went back home?
Yeah. And when I think back, lucky Nana, every one of us girls came back home to live. It was really something after the war, because there were Ginny and Rich. No,
So-
Barbara wasn't, because she lived in Chicago. And Nancy.
That bar was Lickazar, right?
Yes, But, you know, we didn't give a thought to that. That was our home, and we just moved back. And,
Here they thought they were free of their kids and they all come back home.
well, that was just us young, the four youngest. All the others were gone. But, and then Corey was born there.
How long after you guys were married?
About 4.5
Years?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, remember, he was on the ship for over 3 years.
Did he come home for breaks though, right?
Well,
Or no?
about once every year. or
So you'd only
two.
see him about once a year?
Oh, not even.
Is that what held your marriage together?
Distance makes the heart grow fonder.
Oh, you bet. Oh, those are awful years.
She used to write me every single day.
Do you have those
Really?
letters still?
No,
She'd number the letters, so I know.
we
how to read 'em.
finally read them all one time.
And tossed
Burned
them?
didn't we?
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Wow.
But I numbered them, and then we had a huge world map. Of course, you couldn't say where he was. And before he left, he numbered it all. And then in one of his letters, he would say
On
Oh,
the
like-
number such and
numbers
such.
something.
Oh, like in
something.
code.
Yeah. But of
Oh.
course, by the time I got the letter,
He was somewhere else.
a month later, at least I knew he had been there.
If I was in the front line, I'd tell her I was in the back line. She wouldn't worry. Then her dad would come down every morning and say, well, I see they sunk another 10 destroyers.
Oh gosh.
Now, would all
Oh,
of your
gosh.
sisters that were married, all of the husbands were off to war then?
Matthew,
Rich
older
was
one.
with you, right?
What's up?
Yeah, you're was Bill.
Bill, that's right. Bill
He
was
was
the
a tank
tank
driver.
corps. Yeah.
He drove tanks for Pat.
So was that in the army?
Yes.
Army.
So he was in the army?
And Dave was a Marine. He was a Marine.
But Ann and Mary were too old. Their husbands,
We're too old.
well, Ann's husband was in the First World War.
First World War. Can you imagine? Anne's husband was in the First World War.
Wow.
Yeah, my gosh.
And, see,
The one
Oh,
from Mary.
what?
This is the one from Mary.
Yeah.
Maybe you guys should.
Oh,
Sure.
yeah, I found that letter.
Gotta
from-
show him that stuff by a
Hey, Daddy.
real criminal.
Hey Evie, can you be quiet for a little while?
I found this letter that my sister Mary wrote the day after we were married.
And
We
Mary
were
was which in the line of
second,
all your kids?
Ann and then Mary.
Okay.
She wrote the day after you got married.
Well, she was there.
Yeah.
She came. She lived in Seattle, but she came to Minneapolis for the wedding, and she's writing this letter back home to her husband.
Oh, okay.
Should I read it? Or?
Yeah, go for it.
I want to write a long letter, but it will have to be just a quick one this time. She was working at an obstetrician's office filling in for the girl on vacation while I'm anxious to leave the office as soon as possible because I haven't had a thing to eat today. You know, there was a wedding at the house last night and I was the only one that had to get up today. When I woke up, it was lighter than usual and I certainly hopped out of bed when I saw it was 8:15. I got here on the dot of 9. This is written Saturday noon on the 31st of January 1942. Can you imagine a real wedding taking place at the Sewell house? And it couldn't have been lovelier in any family. Everything was perfect. And it was planned just since the last letter I wrote you. That there must have been close to 50 people there. I didn't count them. And Mother and Dad were the perfect host and hostess. Dad even helped carry out dirty dishes. I never saw him do anything in my life. I don't remember any of this. They even sat in the proper place with the groom's parents on the davenport. The ceremony was in front of the fireplace. They brought the ferns in there and there was a big bouquet of jonquils and iris on the mantel, candelabra and more greenery and sweet peas all over the house. The kids were all thrilled about having a wedding and you can imagine how they all pitched in to get the house in order. The dining room was a perfect picture, a real wedding cake, which I served after Donna cut the first piece. We had beautiful fancy ice cream and nuts, mints, and coffee also. Absolutely nothing went wrong. We all watched for them to come downstairs and they walked right between us and out the front door. It was a perfect night, full moon, and the sky was really blue late at night. It's colder today. I imagine a blizzard. It is in order though. The rest didn't have to do with the wedding, but here's the receipt for the wedding ring. He paid $18.50 and the tax was included.
That's the proof, huh?
Yeah.
That story's true.
You even have taxes back then.
So you do the breakdown of how much the whole wedding cost?
Well, he always says that.
Yeah.
But
So
he doesn't know.
1850?
He doesn't know because I don't even remember any of this food or flowers or.
Two for the wedding license, that's $20.50.
Evie.
Don't do
And
that.
$5 to the minister, that's $25.50.
And Mary wrote the write-up that was in the paper. It's all mentions all of it.
The announcement.
Mentioned she had a dress, this.
Boy, you guys sound like you had a pretty fancy wedding. A lot of good
Lord.
stuff.
Yeah, I didn't remember any of that.
That's pretty neat.
And
So
his
then we went to Lowell Lynn,
Stillwater.
rented the wedding suite,
These are some of the people that were there.
Yeah.
$11 for the wedding suite.
Oh,
And she wanted to get home, she didn't want to stay a second night because she wanted to get home, pretend to be married, you know, so. So we only went one night in Stillwater.
And did
Read
you
all
have a
these?
car then? Did you have a car when you were married? So how did
he
you get
sold his car so we could get married.
So then how'd you
What?
get to Stillwater?
Yeah, we wouldn't do that today, we
He
just,
used his
Wow.
dad's car.
Oh, you borrowed
And it
borrowed
was
the car?
old.
yeah, it's 30 below zero.
Oh, gosh.
He wants me to read some of the people who were there, but can I just skip the ones that you
Oh,
know?
I wrote them all down there.
I,
Who they
oh, I
were.
don't want to.
No, I'll do it. Okay, let it go.
All right.
Explain the relations.
Yeah, because a lot of these were my folks' friends too.
Says, Jim Wilkins was there, he was his wife, that's his first wife. He's been married 3 times now.
That's your cousin.
My first cousin, he was a lieutenant in the Navy during the war. And Betty and Cross, it's my sister and her husband, they came down from Duluth, and they had 1 child at that time. My dad was there,
And mother.
and my mother, and Ralph Drew Miller and his wife Ann, Florence Rashaw, Donna's lifetime girlfriend, she was in kindergarten with. Her husband was was at Pearl Harbor when it happened.
When it
He was a
happened?
Navy flyer.
Wow.
And Charlotte Brewster, was she a maid?
She sang at the wedding.
She sang.
They would,
No, you wouldn't know.
Definitely wouldn't know her.
well,
Nancy Carroll Sewell, she was only 12 years old when we got
So
married.
And
that's
her-
Nancy Howe now,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
and her young
She's
writing,
74 now.
see, she was only 12 years old then.
Virginia
Very
Hooper.
young writing.
Virginia Hooper was a good family friend, and she was only about 12 years old then too, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that who Ginny was named after?
no,
No.
Ruth and Helen Dutton, they were
your mother's cousins.
my cousins, mother's cousins. And Beatrice Tucker was an old girlfriend of mine in the neighborhood. Her mother was there. And my girlfriend Betty Tucker was already married. She was living in Seattle. Her husband flew P-29s over in Europe.
We still see her.
Yeah.
Or still alive?
Let's see. And Bobby Friedman,
Well, that was my girlfriend.
did her daddy own the Dinah Theater?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
We used to ride the streetcar out to the end of the line and go to her dad's theater. The dad's theater was at the end of the streetcar line. And of course, we could go free for the dad.
Wow.
There's Bill York, he was a boyfriend of my brother. His
He
good
grew
friend.
up in your neighborhood.
Lydia Anderson, she was Donna's family friend, and she's also chief operator of the telephone company. When I went to, I used to see her all the time when I worked.
Chief operator, huh?
She was a chief operator, she was in charge of about 300 girls.
Wow. Hey, yeah, that's quite a few.
And here's Hazel Dutton Begg, she was my mother's first cousin, and she was.
Dutton bag?
Hmm?
Dutton bag?
Dutton
Dutton.
Beggs. Beggs was her married.
Oh,
And Shirley Beggs is her daughter, who today lives in Texas. And Richard Secor, my brother, was my best man. And here's a Nellie Tuffelson, who was a neighbor across down the street. We used to run into her in Santa Barbara, California. When we
We
lived
go,
out
we go
No
up to
kidding.
see her.
there. No, she's moved out there.
She's a lot older.
And Gladys Kimball was a neighbor of Donna's.
Next door.
And the Wolseleys were
More neighbors.
neighbors. And Betty Ryder was my boyfriend's wife. Who else we got? Oh, we got Kay Wilkins was my first cousin. She was from Battle Lake, Minnesota.
So
And
she's
you're-
Jim's sister or Jim's
Yeah.
sister?
And Dad, I got him down here.
By the way, his brother Richard stood up for him and Ann stood up for me.
You chose Anne as your
Yeah.
maid of honor?
There was
She was
Virginia
always
Sewell.
good.
Virginia was about 15 years old.
Yeah.
And Truman Beggs, he was,
Your cousin.
yeah, he was
Husband.
vice president of Russell Miller Company.
What's that?
And Barbara Jean Sewell, she was 17 years old. when we-
Was she?
Well, she'd have to be either of 18 and a half.
Well, she was almost 3 years younger than me.
Okay, this is only 60. There we are.
All right.
They're the keepers.
I evidently when Mary died, Ginny brought back a lot of different things of hers. Ginny was her favorite. And I was so glad Ginny gave me this because I don't remember any of these things about
So that was written from Mary to her
her
husband?
husband.
So how did Mary end up in Seattle?
They moved out there. He worked for Boeing, I think it was. Yeah. And they lived in Puget Sound, and I never did get up to see them. He died too young. We lived in that, after the war, we all came back to Nana's house, and, oh, that was jolly. I shouldn't put all this on.
didn't you tell me that you used to ride a train to California?
Where, well,
Or when
sick.
I remember a story that you tell me you ride a train out to California.
San Francisco?
The first time I went out, he was stationed in San Diego going to a gyro compass school. And I had never been away from home. And I'd never even gone alone on the streetcar downtown anywhere.
Oh,
So
gosh.
I had to go alone on the train, and the trains, well, they had to use them for the troops, so what was left, civilians would get on. Some
And how long
just
of a trip would
awful-
that be?
Oh, it took almost 5 days. Oh, it was terrible. And I'd tell Mother that, and she wouldn't believe me, because she said, no, trains are lovely.
Toilets would all plug up.
Oh, they were terrible. Some even had gas lights still.
Sleeping in your chair then?
Oh, yes, yes.
For 5 days?
But I got out to San Diego, and he met me at the train depot, and he said, have you got any money? I had $50. He had to spend that to get us a room in a house where you shared the bath. And remember, he's just a lowly sailor.
And how long
sailors
would you stay out there for?
until his school was done, what, a few months?
Oh, okay.
A couple months?
It was 4 months.
Oh, that long.
So $50 lasted you the 4 months?
Well, he would get,
Paid.
and how much did a wife get in those days? I don't,
Oh, so
Well,
you would get an
When
allowance?
I went into
for
the
4
service,
months?
you got $21 a month.
yeah.
And then they passed a rule that the married men would be boosted up to $78 a month. But that money was sent home to your wife. So
Did it?
I didn't see it.
That's
So
good, because
she
you guys
got
would have
what you
just
call
pissed
an
it away.
allotment.
No.
Could you imagine the drinking and the smoking and stuff? They would just take the money.
Oh, cigarettes only cost a nickel a pack in those days.
What did?
Cigarettes, 5 cents a pack. And you didn't drink because you weren't allowed to in the Navy, on ships and so on.
And so I had to eat, he could get food at the base.
Yeah.
He had to live on the base.
And you lived in a room, huh?
Yeah, and he could get weekends off. But I had to take a job
So you
with
worked on it?
Consolidated Aircraft. And he always says I was Rosie the River there, but I worked in the blueprint department, and you had big, long scissors. You had to cut
Cut
the blueprints
blueprints?
apart.
That's all you did is cut blueprints?
Yeah. And one night, and I think you had night hours, so I,
I went to school from 3 to
11
11
at
o'clock.
night, so I worked that shift. Only one time, somebody dropped a scissor on my foot, the point first. It didn't cut it or anything, but, oh, did it hurt. So I had to go home, but I remember the guards, everything was guarded in those days, even where we lived in San Diego up in the hills. You couldn't
Jesus.
walk up in the hills because they had gun mounts
Jeez.
and soldiers on duty. But I remember the guard when I first started working. Here's the little country bumpkin from Minnesota. He says, "You'll be as bad as the rest of them in the month." So they're all just awful girls. Not me. I'm an old maid.
At 20.
Well, I was 21 the week after we were married.
Oh.
No, I was 20 the week after we were married.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then I tell all the grandkids, don't get married young, enjoy life. But life was different in those days.
Yeah. A lot different.
I would do it again. But we had fun being young and dumb.
dumb fun, huh?
Yeah.
So how come you never ended up with a tattoo for being in the military?
He wasn't wild.
Oh. So only the wild ones did that?
He wasn't
did
wild or
Rich,
sexy.
Did Rich
Yeah.
have a tattoo then?
I don't think so.
No, he didn't
Rich
either?
didn't have a tattoo.
I thought all Navy men came out with
Rich didn't
tattoos.
have a tattoo. No.
His mother
I
gave
didn't
him
want
an obligation.
Tattoos are forever until you get married.
Oh. What kind of obligation did your mother give you with Rich?
Well, being the older brother, I was supposed to set the example and be a goody-goody two-shoe all the time.
Oh.
So I couldn't smoke, and I couldn't go out with girls, and I didn't do anything, you know, except go to school and be a nice obedient little boy, you know. And
That's why I like him.
always had to work, sell papers, newspapers, magazines, drugstores and stuff. But Richard came to school with a girl on each arm and a pack of cigarettes in
And
his pocket.
He had to make up for everything you
For
did.
everything
Yeah.
I did.
He had to do it. He had to do it
Gee
twice. Twice
Besides
as
that, he
much.
was better looking too. Girls liked him.
There you go.
Yeah, when he came back from war, he worked at her father's factory, Scott Manufacturing.
Gesundheit.
And he was, he worked at the
I know,
box
he
plant.
did.
He didn't like it because every time they
Yeah,
had a,
bunch of
you
time.
couldn't smoke until you had a break, and then they blow a whistle, and then you could go to lunch, and you blow a whistle when it was over. He didn't like that, so I said, well, why don't you go down to the phone company? I said, they're hired everybody. So he went down to the phone company, and they hired him right away. So that's how he got to work at the phone company.
So did you start working for the foam company after the Second
Before
War? Oh, before the war?
Before, I had almost 2 years service before the war.
So they have to give you your job back when they come back?
Okay, so each time he came back from war, he would go
Not
back?
each time, when the war was finally over.
Well, he went to Korea too, so
Well,
Same thing.
so he came back.
Even today, they do that.
Yeah, we know that.
And Corey was born while you were at sea?
yeah. He was born the day the war ended. I was listening to him signing the armistice on the USS
Missouri.
Missouri. Thank you.
So you felt, okay, it's time to have this kid?
Yeah. And he didn't see him until he was almost 3 months old.
Wow.
What was it like having a child without your husband being there? Tough?
Well, his sister took me to the hospital.
Betty?
Betty. No. Barb.
Barb?
Barb. And she said, she said someone asked her why I kept yelling, Maury. I guess I was saying Maury.
Yeah.
But thank goodness you don't remember.
Did they
me
have
that.
drugs back then for having kids?
I
Did
was
you have to
out. I
totally-
don't remember
You don't
anything.
remember anything? Oh, so they just put you totally out and...
We kept you in the hospital for 10 days.
Happy
Really?
day.
I made $100 on Corey the day he was born.
Happy
But
birthday.
everyone gave
I
you
bet
money?
$100 that he was going to be a boy. And the war was over then, and I still didn't know who he was or whether he was even born until I got a letter from Aunt Ginny. And she kept talking about this little baby.
She wouldn't say what it was?
She didn't say what it was. And finally at the end, she said, it's the prettiest little boy I ever saw in my life.
So, did you guys talk about names and stuff prior to having the kids so that when you had it, you knew what to name the kid?
Well, it had to be a boy, so there's no girls.
So there's no girl's name whatsoever, huh?
It would have been Corey either way, probably, right?
Yeah. And that was,
That's right.
that was some friend of his, thank you. That was a friend of his on the ship. So he got the name
Boy that got killed on the ship.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Oh, really?
Thank you.
He got,
Seven.
he died gun number 3 when they shot it up. Everybody in the gun mount got killed. There were 8 guys in there. And, I can remember packing his bag to send it back home to his folks, his sea bag. And he played the guitar. He's a guitar player. He had a guitar. I can remember putting that in the bag. It's kind of sad.
And his name was Corey, huh?
But the guys, we were in Subic Bay, Philippine Islands, and a lot of the men were being discharged off the ship. They had a lot of points, and they were free to go home after the war. And this was probably late November by then. And I still didn't know Corey was born. And these guys had money bet with me, and they were going to leave the ship that day. The mailman came on with the mail, and these guys stayed. They held the boat up just so that I could get my mail and read it before these guys left. They wanted to know if they were going to get their $10 bills from me.
That was a lot of money in those
Yeah.
days.
Yeah. Finally, the letter finally said that it was a boy, and the guys all, whoever was in charge of the money, give it to me, and these guys got on their boat. I never saw them again the rest of my life.
So how did Corey get his middle name?
Middle
Well,
name?
we just had to think of something that went with it. That was, he didn't know what it was. A few years ago, he says, I don't know what it is.
He doesn't even
I had
know
to
to spell
spell
it.
it. And the same with Doug. I think they named Doug Allen, and I
You
said,
know
it's just
his?
A-L-A-N. I can write it out for him.
Very-
So, and then you said earlier that 50, how old was you? 53?
52.
52. 52 years ago, you had 20 inches of snow on this day?
Today.
We lived.
Look at that.
Well, no. You
Good
got up for
afternoon.
your daddy's birthday.
Morning.
Thank goodness he got back. He didn't have to stay for that Korean War.
So how long was he gone for the Korean War?
3 months.
3 months. 3 months. So how come they didn't keep you?
He got I went to the doctors and got verifications that I was pregnant and I had polio, and they said they call it medical need at home, or so
Wow.
they got him out.
So you wouldn't keep him. That's
Yeah.
good.
And
Because by that point, how old would you have been for the Korean War?
I was almost 30.
Oh, not quite 30 yet. I didn't mean through 2 wars before your 30th birthday.
well, look at those in the reserves now.
Yeah.
And of course, he stayed in the reserves because how much did you earn a month by doing that? I don't know,
$25 or
yeah,
something,
something like that. And boy, that meant a lot.
Maybe a little bit.
Supplement.
Yeah.
Because he didn't, well, you forgot to tell when you wanted to get married and you asked mother how much a man should be earning.
That's right. She says at least $75 a month, and I was making 78. I said, oh gosh, I'm stuck. Sad.
And my darn little sisters said they used to spy on us, necking away in the living room.
Boy.
Spooning.
Oh,
Spooning.
okay. Oh, in St. Louis Park, where all those magnificent homes are now by Cedar Lakeside, used to be a beautiful woods. We'd go park there. And
What?
every time Sally dropped out, she's like, you mean my mommy used to go in there and park? You must have had a car then. You did, yeah. Oh, that's right.
What was the first car you got when you were married? Together.
First car
Oh, not till
my
after.
brother and I bought it together
Oh, that was before you were married.
before when I first met her.
What about when you were married?
How about when you were married?
Well, I
After the
bought
war?
it, that was a 1938 Plymouth,
So it was
cost
relative,
$500.
relatively new. I mean, it wasn't an old jalopy or anything.
Because they weren't making them during the war.
Right, that's right.
But the first car, my brother and I paid $25 for it. We give the guy $5 and $1 a week till it was paid for. God, think of that. Gas was 9 cents a gallon back in those days.
And I was scared to death to let mother see it because I thought she'll never let me go.
What kind of car was that?
Hmm?
What kind of car was that?
It was a 1928 convertible Chrysler. Roadster.
Whoa, really
Boy,
something.
4 cylinders. Boy, could that thing climb hills.
But what, it cost you $35 or
It cost
something?
me $25. My dad went out and spent $35 to buy insurance to protect himself.
So he would pay $35 a month for that insurance?
No,
Or was $35 a
Yeah,
year?
yeah. You say steep.
See how relative money is?
Well,
But after the war, we
Is that?
finally bought that little house by Cedar Lake. It was really just a cottage that had turned into a house. And just one big bedroom with a walk-in closet off of it, with a window. And when, that was Corey's bedroom.
That was the nursery, the walk-in
That was
closet.
Closet.
And it was also our closet, but it was also where Corey slept.
no heat.
You didn't have a problem with him pulling down your clothes or anything? Or when he got older,
No.
he wasn't in there?
No. But there was no heat. And they didn't have trundle bundles in those days, you know, to keep a baby bundled up in. And he'd throw the blankets off and be cold in
It'd be
there.
blue in the morning.
But then when Billy was born, then we thought, well, we've got to give the kids that big bedroom. And we bought a hide-a-bed.
And you slept in the closet?
Huh?
And you slept in the closet?
No, then we bought a hide-a-bed to sleep in the living room. And Dad didn't like that. That's when we said we'll buy another house. That's when we moved to 54th Street.
So you've been living in, you lived in 54th Street from the time,
Oh, yeah,
From-
about 30 years.
30 years?
Yeah.
So you
I
were
think-
still like an infant?
Yeah, he was 6 months, and
6
Bill
months
and
old.
Corey was 6 years old when we moved into the house.
So they each have their own room in that house?
That's
Wow, that must have been like big time. You each have your own room.
And you were like the second owner of that house?
Yeah,
Yeah,
because we took over his
Oh, you need to be careful.
GI mortgage.
you had $11,000 GI mortgage, 4% interest.
Mama.
What?
And,
Oh, you lucky
Don't-
girl.
we sold our little house, so we had about
Donna.
$5,000 that we sold. So,
Oh, we paid, what did we pay for the little
we
house?
paid $2,500 and sold it for $5,000.
Oh, that's not bad. Double the
That's like
money
a-
almost.
Pure profit
Right.
there.
So I offered the guy $4,000 toward his mortgage, which would have made the house $15,000. But he wanted 18. The mortgage guy, Nicholson Smith, said that he wouldn't accept it. And I said, well, you haven't presented it to him yet. I said, it's your job as a salesman to present all bona fide offers.
Who's that?
So he,
Oh, who's that?
so that was the end of the conversation, and he called me up that night, he
Who's
said, you
that?
just bought a house.
Oh,
So the owner wanted to get the hell out of there, and he was a professor at the university, and he had a whole flock of kids, and wanted to move closer to the U. So he took the offer, and that was it.
What?
So I paid his GI mortgage for 29 years, because he'd only lived there a year.
Wow.
Oh, boy, when we were gonna move to California, you'd been retired for,
A couple of years.
yeah, and Nana had died. And after we sold the house, we went down to the bank. And I had a book where every month you had to mark off what you paid, which is page after page after page. Oh, boy, to have that all paid off. And Ginny had asked us to come out to visit her in California, and we said, no, we couldn't do that. For a while after he retired, we signed up with a temporary agency, and I had never worked outside of the house. But, we got jobs, and we'd work at Donaldson's when marking things down, and he'd work there. Anyhow, we were working downtown Donaldson's in Minneapolis. And it was about 30 below zero, and we had to take the bus home, and we had to wait about 20 minutes. It was just, I had my mouth covered. It was so cold, I couldn't breathe. So he says, call Jenny and tell her we're gonna come out and visit her, which we did. And she said, well, you have to stay at least 3 weeks, which we did. And so we looked around and thought,
And that was like what, 1970,
1980.
1980?
we moved in 80 in November, but we went out earlier that year.
Yeah.
And,
Mommy?
so we looked and found a house we thought we'd like, and I kept saying, have we got enough money to buy the house? That's all I cared about. And,
Now you're talking about the one in Palm Springs, right?
yeah, Desert Hot Springs.
Whoa, no, no.
Well, and I remember Corey came out to see
Ho,
if it would be all right to
Approve
live
it?
there. And he said that he could take,
Daddy,
To approve it?
Daddy.
yeah.
That was going on back then too, huh?
Daddy,
Well, because he said he would buy
Daddy,
us
Daddy.
if we wanted. I said, no, that wouldn't work. But he couldn't get over that it could be 100 degrees and he wasn't sweating because it's dry heat out there.
Right.
So he said, go for it. So we went for it.
Yeah.
And we had 12 good years
See
there.
our daddy?
Yeah, it was fun until the last year, the last earthquake.
Look at it.
Too much.
Too much. When all the
You'd rather
people-
take the cold than the earthquake?
Well, not him. He'd rather be out there. But
Daddy.
No earthquakes, thank you very much.
nope.
So going back to the birth of the kids, how did you choose Dad's name?
Because my dad died and his name was Wilbur, but he was always called Bill. Not by us, but so I wanted to name Bill after my dad.
So you just chose
And
William.
Wardwell after his mother's maiden name. But
Oh, what a handle.
yeah, You didn't used to like the Wardwell.
That's quite a mouthful, William
Well,
Wardwell.
Wardwell is a beautiful name, I think.
Yeah, but it's a really long name when you have William Wardwell
Yeah,
Kohler.
yeah, and they would do W. Wardwell on things from college. I don't think you liked that.
And so then what, 5 years later came Sally?
It's almost 7.
7 years later came Sally? Did you plan to have them that far apart in age?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I
Smart move.
told you I wanted to enjoy each one, which I did until they went to school, and then you get another one. I always said that there was 9 children in my family, and my dad just loved them like you do.
Your face.
He loved babies, but as soon as they got old enough to talk back, so watch him.
Time
Let's get another
time
one
to have
easily.
another one.
Just think about it. In the 2 families, there were 6 in my family, and 9 in her family. That's 15 couples that got married. Of the 15 couples that got married, both parents, the only ones they ever saw get married were Donna and I.
Really?
My ours last.
1 out of 15,
Yeah.
because all the others ran off during the war and got married, or they got married away from home.
Wasn't that kind of like not done back then? I mean, didn't you normally have a wedding?
Evidently. Well,
No, well,
see,
it
my
was so different in wartime.
my oldest brother got married up in Battle Lake, and
Don't touch anybody, Evie.
my oldest sister got married in Minneapolis, and that was kind of by the judge got married. They married in the
Justice of the
courthouse,
peace. Yeah.
so the folks didn't even go to the wedding. They didn't have a big wedding of anything. My oldest sister got married up in Superior, Wisconsin. My next sister got married in Grove City, Pennsylvania. He was in Marine in the service, so they got married out there. And my brother got married in San Francisco.
Wow, that's the way it worked out, I guess.
Well, those days were very different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
your
why really
family, I don't know where your sister and brothers all got
Well,
married.
they're older. They're so much older.
All done?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we clean you up?
Yeah.
Come on. So when Sally came along, did you know it was going to be a girl?
Well,
Sally came
by
along
then I
with-
wanted a girl. So I had 24 little pink dresses lined up around the top of the bedroom, and it worked.
3 months later. 3 months later, Billy wanted us to take her to the fruit house.
We had gotten him a kitty when Dad would work in the downtown area. We called it the fruit house. It was a wholesale fruit place. So then after, Sally was older than that. She was talking a lot. He says, I'm getting kind of sick of her. He says, can't we take her back to the fruit house and get a kitty instead? And she's still talking.
I wonder if Evie's gonna do that.
We almost had another Sally?
Yeah. I miscarried early.
Okay, at the end.
But
Water.
oh, what if there'd been a second Sally?
Imagine that, huh? Boy, oh boy.
And they used to say, oh, I hope when you grow up you go on television so we can turn you off. And by George, in college, she worked for a radio station. And I said, see, it's coming through. They could turn off the radio station.
I remember when you went to Washington or DC, on the train, you got stuck in Chicago.
I don't remember that.
And you
That's
said,
his story.
how would you like to be stuck with a whole trainload of salads?
He asked how his trip was.
Evie was
Nowadays,
there.
they fly.
Yeah.
That's right.
So then how does Sally get her name?
Bird?
My
Thirty.
best girlfriend growing up was Sally Cassidy.
Sally Cassidy?
Although she really went by Sarah. But,
No, you had some.
decided I wanted Sally.
And then
Anne.
Anne?
Anne seemed to go with it, and Anne was always good to me. I think she felt sorry for me.
Oh, man.
Well, maybe we should give him a break.
Okay.
In 45 minutes.
Oh, and I don't.
She had a boy that was born dead.
Which we
lived
didn't
a
know
hour or
about.
so.
And that's what she named Warren?
No,
No.
she named him, Wilson. Wilson Cole. But I told her, I said later on, I said, well, you knew the baby was gonna die, why the hell didn't you name him Warren? You know, what the hell? But then she could've had the whole family name, see?
Well,
Why she didn't
I
want
think
Warren?
Mother had so many kids, she wasn't interested, so Ann named me.
I make copies of it.
The name for a box of station.
Four generations.
Box of candy, I said.
Box of candy?
In the same folds. Wow.
Yeah, when you have 9 kids by that, when you have that many
Exact
kids,
relationship.
just get tired of naming
She
them.
didn't know where they came from.
Valerie.
Yeah, she even went down around the neighborhood telling everybody that Donna didn't have to have a baby every year.
Oh, she thought that was just fantastic.
Yeah.
Her son.
And of
don't
course,
blame her.
and that Sister Mary
It's the exact same
I told you.
relationship.
just filled in for the girl vacationing at the obstetrician's office,
Evie
and
and
she sent me down
Her
there. and I
grandfather,
thought-
me.
I came home in the streetcar with that
Between the two pictures, that's
the
so
bag, and I thought, everybody knows
Met that little
that I
baby
got
was
this bag. Oh dear, dear, dear.
Those would have just come out about that point in time, right?
Yeah, she told me to get down there and get one.
Yeah.
You went to his funeral?
Well, we
I've got to write down. I want to make sure I write down the story of how we got that
Afghan.
Afghan from Ann. That to me is a very unique.
It's beautiful.
Oh yeah, yeah.
She gave it to me at one time, but it's wool, and I can't stand wool.
Well, I tell
And I
you,
get,
Is it a full size?
oh no,
No, it's like a lap,
Afghan.
like a lap.
I
Yeah.
said,
Half
what
lap.
size?
Well, they're,
Kind of just a lap size.
yeah.
yeah, it's
You know,
Yeah.
the Afghan that I have, that my mother made, is bigger, right?
No,
Oh, Same
it's,
size?
yeah, it's just made of different stuff,
Material
yeah.
stuff, yeah.
I bought that so it could be washed, and some other made it. But,
My mother made that when she was
dying.
dying. She wanted something to keep herself busy. So we bought this kit. It was a kit that you could
Yeah.
make an Afghan out of. So,
He's
and I've
still-
been using it in my naps for 30 years, so.
No, no kidding.
Well, sure, that's why I got that washable stuff.
Oh,
You need to stop.
some sort of a
On the
DuPont,
floor.
I don't know.
I
Floor.
don't know if
That goes on the floor.
Right. So you're getting older by the minute.
So now we know how you guys got married. How did Corey get married? Did he ask you advice?
Yeah, he actually asked me, he said,
they- what should I do?
he says, what do you think? And I said,
No, he said,
I
what should
said,
I,
do you love the girl? And he said, yeah.
what should I do about Judy?
Yeah.
I said, what should I do? I said, well, you gotta marry her then, if you love her.
He never said he did, he just,
No,
Had he dated her all through college?
Who?
No?
she was
Yeah.
sweetheart of Sigma Chi and a model, she was a lovely, lovely girl. And I suppose that was it, the football
Miss
player and
Grand Forks.
Stop.
Sweetheart of the
Miss
fraternity.
Grand Forks, that's right.
Miss Grand Forks.
Yeah, yeah, she, and her dad kept a, scrapbook on her, just like dad did. She was a beautiful girl, but,
So he asked your advice, but then he didn't even include you in the wedding?
well, he had to go in the army, and he was down south, and
Reserves?
her dad drove her down, and she told him not to stay.
She's just so
So-
long.
So none of the parents were there.
Maybe that's
They
what
got
you
married
did.
in a church in the army.
Oh, what?
In church?
Church was on the army base.
Well, we've got the pictures of
Did he
that.
lose his pants?
Genevieve Sewell.
Yes. Somebody stole the pants to a suit out of the hotel room. So he came
Not the
down
suit,
the
just-
jacket and vest.
And he said when they were getting their marriage license, they both noticed that there was a $10 bill laying on the floor. And they both bent over to pick it up and they banged heads together. They found a $10 bill to pay for their license. So he got married for free right there.
Bad sign.
Yeah. Oh, Steve Bowman said, don't marry her, don't marry her, don't marry her. And then look what he did too. So
Yeah, but he got 2 great kids out of her.
they had bad,
What?
yes, he
Do I have to
did.
eat this?
Thank goodness they've been good about the kids.
Water.
Both of them.
That's important.
Yeah.
Should we get her home for a nap, or what do you want to do?
Yeah, we probably could.
Nap time pretty soon. I got 2 more hours to go yet.
Don't throw food on the floor.
Yeah, should
There's a story I gotta tell you, Ricky, about my dad. When he was 75, his prostate closed up on him, and he couldn't go wee-wee thing. And I had called up to see how my folks were. My mother says that Dad's up in the toilet, groaning and moaning, can't go to the bathroom. So I said, told Donna about it. And so somehow or other, we talked to her doctor in the neighborhood there, Dr. King.
Yeah, which isn't important.
And he said that, we asked him, what would be serious about it. He said, well, if you don't get him to the hospital, he's probably gonna die. And so
And his dad was a stubborn old German, old grouch.
So I told the
His
guy,
mother was precious.
so I called up the mother and I says, well, it's pretty bad, Mom. I said, you better pack a suitcase for Dad, his bathrobe, and get him ready to go to the hospital. She said, well, you know he won't go. I said, I'll be right up, Mom. So I went up there and I went up, Dad's sitting on the toilet, groaning. I said, Dad, you're gonna go to the hospital. I said, the doctor says if you don't get there, you're gonna die. And he says, what hospital? I says, St. Mary's. He says, I don't like the Catholics. And I says, it's true. The guy's dying, see, and when you go to the hospital. And so I said, well, this Dr. King evidently went to St. Barnabas Hospital.
No, you said, well, then you can go to,
I said, it's a Jewish hospital.
well, that isn't St. Barnabas.
No, it was Mount Sinai.
Yeah.
Sinai. And he says, I don't like the Jewish people. And I says, I ain't got any money anyway. And I said, Dad, you're dying. I said, it's not a time to worry about money. And I said, besides, this Dr. King says, if I don't get you to the hospital in half an hour, you're gonna be dead. He was in the car before I was.
He was.
Oh, yeah, then he lived to what, 93?
He was 75,
How long did he live to?
93. So it's a good thing he went.
Boy,
During his operation, they gave him the wrong kind of blood and he turned black. Right in front of us. They were pumping blood into him.
You watched the
I
operation?
grabbed the nurse right away and I said, something's wrong here. I said, and she got somebody in there right away and they noticed that he was getting the wrong type of blood. So they had to shoot the new type in. He came colorful like that. But he almost went right there too, right in front of me.
Jeez.
Well, those days,
That
that was
would've
a
been a
tough
lawsuit.
operation. Taking out the cholesterol.
Would have been killed by the wrong type of blood?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You said you knew your grandfather for 16 years?
I knew him 16 years. See, he was born
Great grandfather, you mean, right?
1842.
His grandson.
1842. And he died in 1937. So he was actually almost 97 years.
That's Cat?
Yeah, Cat. And I knew the guy.
His dad is skipper.
I was 16 years old when he died.
That's the one that all this stuff
I knew him
came
for
from,
16
right?
years.
Well,
So,
I've known my grandparents for 27 years.
Here, I never knew any grandparents, that's why,
Yeah.
that was interesting
Yeah.
to see that picture.
2 huge holes in his shoulder where he silhouette bullets,
Cannonballs?
they call those
Aren't
bullets
they
as big as your
cannonballs?
thumb in those days. It went right into his shoulder and right came out the other side.
Amazing, lived.
There's,
Yeah.
have you ever read Cap's journal from the
No,
war?
I read just
Oh,
a
you read
little
this
bit of
part
it.
But then he said he was crying once as a little boy.
Yeah, bumblebee.
Something, a bumblebee bit him. That's when his grandpa showed him these holes. And
God,
said,
they were ugly. Green and yellow looking.
Oh,
well, just think they did.
because the medicine
Poor
wasn't that
men
great
died
to
in that
fix you
Civil
back
War.
up
They
back
didn't-
then.
Usually they just
He laid
took the
the
limb off.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
laid in the field for 24 hours before they picked him up and took him to the
He's
hospital.
lucky he even survived.
And of course, he was real young, wasn't he, in the Civil War?
What is it with your family that they live forever?
But the
Good
doctor,
genes.
he lived in what, Illinois? And they told him that he had to go north or he wouldn't live a year or two. And he lives till what, 97?
97.
Yes.
Yeah, he
With
would've
his
been
mind till the
98
very end?
Next month.
You'd have to ask him.
Did he have
I
his
think he
mind
did.
till the very end?
Hmm?
Did he have his mind till the very end?
As a matter of fact,
Just like Ann.
he, the house they lived in caught on fire about a week before Christmas.
Oh.
And so he went outside, took the hose outside and hooked it up to the faucet, turned it on, came in and put the fire out himself. But in doing that, he got pneumonia and he died on Christmas Day.
Oh.
He did this at
gosh.
97?
He was 97 plus. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, he was a
Guess if you
wiry
lived through war, you.
He was just a little one.
He built that house himself, didn't
Yeah. He helped build the whole town
he? He
too.
was a carpenter?
When he was 90 years old, he built my dad a boat for our cottage. I didn't know that. He was a good carpenter.
I guess all the building and stuff ended with you.
Yeah, thank
Oh, he built that nice.
God. I'm a wood butcher now.
Oh, you are
The
not.
wood
You built-
butcher.
He built a beautiful amusement room in the basement.
It took me 12
And that all
years.
ended with him.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law was woodworking.
Yes, but he never finished anything. At least you finished it and made it nice.
Back then you had to work more with your hands than you do nowadays. Now you gotta work with your mind.
Of course, the kids would say, Dad can fix anything, you know, even a plastic toy, which you
And look
couldn't
at
do.
and then look at the way the kids ended up. Now you can hire anybody.
Shots at you there, Bill.
That's why I built the buzz box, was to keep your dad's hands out of the electric
Yeah.
circuits.
Yeah. They didn't have those little things to cover up the plugs in those days.
I bet it took me, the hardest part of building a buzz box